7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What is good, everyone? It is your boy Politic and Hot alongside my guys, Mr. Joey Woods, Mr. Rich Michaels, Mr. Moya Fit, Chris Wilson will be joining us this evening. However, we are Still Steps coming to you live on a beautiful Wednesday evening, special edition episode of Still Steps here on All Authentic Talk Sports Network. Gentlemen, how are we doing on a Wednesday evening?
That was the cleanest intro ever. You got Wednesday, not Friday, and All Authentic Talk Sports in one take. Bravo, bravo.
Thanks, man. You know, I'm working hard, man. Working hard. I need plates. I need food, man.
You need to play that song. You know it's hard out here for a pimp.
Now you know it. Absolutely. So, gentlemen, we're not even going to waste any time because we already know something transpired yesterday. Which was the PWI 500 list was revealed. And joining us this evening is I don't want to say just a friend of the show. He's kind of like family of the show. Like we bump into each other at different various wrestling events across the town. Very cool dude. He is the editor-in-chief of Pro Wrestling Illustrated. We have the one, the only brother Kevin McElvaney joining us. Still Steps, brother Kev. How are we doing this evening, sir?
Good. My video is not showing up for some weird reason. I don't know when that happened.
Hey, you just came up like the missing link just now.
Yeah, what is this? It was on there a second ago. What?
Right.
My first time using a computer. Just give me a second. Okay.
All good. No worries.
I truly do not know what's going on here. I guess if it doesn't fix in a second, we will just have to do audio on this.
Gotcha. You know what? But before we we dive into the list. You know, let's get everything together. I'm gonna put you back down in the green room. Let's get you right. We
go ahead. I will pop out. I will come back in. Hopefully, it'll have sorted itself out.
Got you, most definitely. So, all right, we're gonna bring you back down. So yeah, so
let's set the scenes though a little bit, right? PWI 500 was released yesterday. Cody Rhodes, first time in a long time, number 4 ever, back-to-back number 1 top 500 2024, 2025. I love this. Ask Kev when he comes back on. The margin that Cody may be won by, or what's that? I'm over the top.
Yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah. Thanks for having me back. It's good to be here again.
Absolutely, man. It's always a pleasure having you here on the Still Steps.
Got my Wawa iced tea lemonade here.
Oh, nice. I'll be honest. I actually wanted to stop just to get me a beverage so I could mix with my mystery beverage here for this evening, but I ain't had no time. I said, no, I got to get home.
You're just drinking. You're just going raw.
Hey, just watch it now. Pause. Hey now.
Family show, maybe.
Right. It's after 7. It's still PG.
This is not the war zone.
Yeah, right. Look, nowadays the way TV is, the war zone be playing at 12 noon. Like, hold on, wait.
True.
I with the USA one day, I said, wait, did he just say shit? It's 1 in the afternoon. Like,
yeah.
Hold up. Like, what's going on here? Like, when did this happen? But no, Kev, we greatly appreciate coming back on with us. 35th annual PWI 500 list that was revealed just yesterday. And for those who are interested in purchasing a copy, whether it's the physical or digital, go check out pwionline.com. That is pwi-online.com to get your copy. I got mine today, so I'm looking forward to going through it after this interview, just to get an idea. I kind of have an idea as far as like the first 100 of notable wrestlers that made the cut. But
in order right now, come on, 1 through 100.
Cody, Moxley.
Okay, that'll take a while.
Nah, I got you. But before we chop it up, for those that are unfamiliar with the list, please explain how it's evaluated and the criteria.
Sure. So the PWI 500 has been going on, as you said, this is the 35th annual edition. So predates my time at the magazine. I first started working on the list back in 2012, I think. Took over as editor-in-chief in 2020. So that since then, it's kind of been, my responsibility to make sure that gets out the door okay. But basically what this is doing is ranking the top wrestlers in the world. We have 3 different lists. We have the PWI 500, the Women's 250, the Tag Team 100. This was historically kind of considered the men's list. It is and it isn't. It is mostly men on the list, but we'll say, for lack of a better explanation, it's a heavyweight list. Like, it's an open weight list. So if a wrestler is going for like that top heavyweight championship, if someone's going, say on the indies, like for the GCW world title, right? If someone is going for the NWA World Heavyweight title, regardless of gender, like they are, because they're in contention for that, they're up for consideration in this list. The Women's 250 is women's divisions, women's championships, and the tag list is kind of just any tag team, any trios championship. But this one in particular, this is our big one. This is the most attention we have on us all year. It's a lot of pressure for us to get it right. The way we put this list together is we look at the top wrestlers from around the world in that heavyweight title contention, that area, and we consider there's a group of criteria that we lean on. So the first big one is in-ring achievement. That is things like championships, like what the win-loss record is looking like for a given wrestler, if they won any like big tournaments, if someone's in WWE, for example, if they won a Royal Rumble or Money in the Bank match, those are considered kind of equivalent to championships. So we'll look at that. We'll look at feuds they have. We'll look at how they fared in those. And in conjunction with that, there's competition. So it's both the quality of competition. So like someone is more likely to make it if they're wrestling against other high-level wrestlers as opposed to like enhancement talent, we'll say. Also, if someone wrestles against like a greater variety of wrestlers, they're more likely to do well. There's also technical ability. So that one's a little more subjective, but it is, in-ring skill, in-ring storytelling, the quality of the matches and moves. Another one that's, again, a little bit more intangible is influence. So that's both on a wrestler's given promotion and on the industry as a whole. So that's star power, social media buzz. Whose name's on the mouths of fans and their fingers typing them into the keyboard or whatever device they're using. And then activity. So that's a huge one. Activity is, if someone is more active, we're generally going to consider them more favorably for the list, but notoriously, this is also what excludes some people from the list. The minimum activity requirement to be in the PWI 500 is 10 singles matches. So that's like non-tag. It can include a triple threat, a fatal four-way, a scramble, a battle royal, but tag matches don't count. 10 singles matches during the evaluation period. If they don't have 10 singles matches, kind of a backdoor way to get in is if they have 6 different months where they had at least one singles match. So we look at all this stuff. The evaluation period for this year was August 1st, 2024 to July 31st of 2025. I think I covered everything.
Gotcha. I gotcha. Now I can only imagine when the annual list discussions are taking place that the conversations can become intense. Yes. So that being said, Cody Rhodes, topping the PWI 500 for the second consecutive year, and becomes the 4th wrestler in history to place number 1 in the PWI 500 back-to-back years, following the steps of Bret Hart of 93 and 94, Stone Cold in 98 and 99, John Cena in 2006 and 2007, and Cody, taking the ranks in 2024 and 2025. How was the discussion amongst the contributors, the contributors of the evaluation? Were there any disagreements about the top position?
Oh
And
yeah. There always are. Last year was a little bit more straightforward. I think everybody kind of knew it was going to be Cody last year. This year, I don't think it was a foregone conclusion. When we came into the meeting, I kind of just went around the table and asked, and this is done over like Teams or Zoom. It's not. There was a time when we were doing these in person, but we're doing this virtually, and I'm going around and asking everyone, like, okay, who's your number one? And we actually, you have them on the screen right now. We had 3 apiece on the committee for Rhodes and Moxley. So, and then we had, I think Brian Solomon was making a case for Gunther, who ended up being number 3. And then, honestly, I don't even remember who I came in. I don't know if I came in with a firm idea of who I thought should be number 1. I was kind of, I thought it was an open question. Cody definitely had this really strong year and meant a lot to WWE. In many ways, the biggest star in the industry. Crucially, the evaluation period, that second world title that he won at SummerSlam was just after that. But he did reign from the beginning of the evaluation period last August all the way up until WrestleMania. I believe he only lost 1 singles match the entire time, to the one to Cena. He won the King of the Ring. He won the champion versus champion match against Gunther. So we looked at him as really kind of being the runaway for number 1 in certain categories. But Jon Moxley also meant a lot to AEW and had a long run. And we kind of broke down their respective opponents, looked at who had the tougher quality of competition, the greater variety. So Moxley had a slightly greater variety of competition, for example. But at the end of the day, we essentially reached the consensus it would be Cody, then Mox.
So was there maybe an added scrutiny to Cody this year that maybe there wouldn't have been in years past just because it is back-to-back? Like, were you a little more hesitant to put Cody 1 because it's only been 3 other, or?
I think so, yeah. I think both reaching that bar and just in general, I think like okay, this is an incumbent. It's kind of like when someone runs for political office again. It's like, okay, well, what happened since they got voted in? Like, what did they do? What did they accomplish? What did they fail to accomplish? Similar thing, like, is he just coasting on his reputation and on what he did last year? Is it just kind of like a continuation of that, or was he challenging himself, as a wrestler, as a performer, as a character? So we looked at all that, but also it's just like, I think there's a little bit extra because part of us thought, well, even though it's cool that it's a record, that's only not a record, but one of this elite club, will say it's only 3 other wrestlers. It's also like a little bit boring in some ways, right? If someone's like, oh, who's going to be number 1 this year? Oh, it's Cody again. Okay. Like, we're worried about how that's going to be received. Now, that doesn't mean that we are not going to pick him, but it does mean, yeah, I think we gave it a little bit of extra scrutiny. Like, okay, are we really sure it's like, did Cody really do enough to merit that back-to-back? And then especially when you look at it like, well, who else has done this? And like, oh, okay, so we are really making a statement about him if we're going to put him in that club where he's with Bret Hart, Steve Austin, and John Cena,
Yeah. And has anyone ever done 3 in a row?
No, never.
No. So he could be in rarefied air if he kind of keeps on. Because, I mean, he started off the year great, right? If you're saying August 1st is like the new period, he started off with a bang right there. Cena at SummerSlam, right? So, I mean, we'll see where that goes, But
and I could even add, there's only been 2 wrestlers who have gotten 3 number 1s at all. So it's John Cena and Seth Rollins. They're the only ones who've had.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
So another angle we can look at is Rollins is a world champion. Could he get number 4 and then set a record that way?
I didn't even know that. That's pretty interesting. Yeah, it'd be pretty cool. So I know you talked about like different genres and different opponents, and that was one of the one of the qualifications in voting, right? I'm a huge deathmatch guy, right? So we've got quite a bit of deathmatch wrestlers in it this year, which is really good to see. Deathmatch is not everyone's cup of tea, right? Yeah. Is there ever any drawback from anybody? Maybe not. I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus or anything, but any drawback in terms of voting, like, well, maybe we shouldn't include this guy over this guy because they are deathmatch, and people don't like deathmatch as much as other styles of wrestling.
I think in years past there was definitely a lot of that. You didn't see as many deathmatch wrestlers. I mean, I'm not trying to take credit for it, but it was also like when deathmatch was starting to be more.
Man, take your credit,
I'll
Kev.
take a little credit.
Yeah,
No, but
yeah.
deathmatch was starting to be a little more popular in the 2020s, right? Like more acceptable, I guess, for lack of a better word. Like AEW was showing it on TV, that sort of thing. But I remember having discussions before. I want to say Masada was CZW champion, and we're kind of looking at like, okay, well, the quality of matches that Masada's having, that like you could argue like this isn't wrestling. That's been a conversation on Twitter the past few days. I don't agree with that, by the way, but there are a lot of people who do feel that way, and I mean I get why they feel that way. It's a very barbaric, ruthless. That's not scientific wrestling. It's not like your daddy's technical wrestling. But I think we did consider that there was a little more scrutiny on it in years past. Whereas now I think it's this valid subgenre. And you can argue like, yeah, okay, sometimes maybe even I as an enjoyer of a death match, I can sometimes be like, this one was a little gross. I don't know about this one. But there's no denying that there are some really devoted fans of deathmatch and that it really makes an impact. And you have people put on these incredible performances and tell these great stories in the ring. And you've had some very, very popular wrestlers come out of it. I forget what number he was a few years ago, but Nick Gage got a very high ranking the one year, and it was purely doing deathmatch. So like it's
a Fremont this year, right? 81.
Yeah.
Pretty high for a guy who is predominantly deathmatch, right? I mean, he can put on an excellent technical match if he has to, but he's for the most part deathmatch to the extreme, right? So I'm gonna hand it over to Rich so he can ask the next question.
82, by the way, Tremont.
82. Okay, I knew it was
I was
around
looking at 81. It wasn't. So obviously this is a really extensive list. You have your time frame. To get all the criteria in. How long does it take typically, with all meetings and Zooms and everything, to kind of come up with this list? Because I assume it has to be extensive.
It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. We start talking about this. We were having conversations back in June, so like about having the first meeting and kind of like, what's everybody thinking? But like we didn't have the real, I forget the exact date, but the first meeting was in July. And then after we had the first meeting, we had a second meeting. And then I kind of went off with the list and sort of tweaked a lot of things, finished it off. Like, okay, here's a working. Jason McVeigh was a huge help this year. The two of us kind of whittled it down. We had a working list at one point and this is wrestlers were like, all these people have a case for being on the list. It's not like, we have to look at all these people. It's like, we've already looked at all these people and now we have to look at them deeper. But it was a working list of like 800 some people.
Wow.
We got, I think 550 submissions alone this year just for this. And for the most part, wrestlers signed to major promotions are not, they for better or worse, they assume we know them, right? So they don't really do the submission form. It's mostly indie and international workers. And we definitely end up ranking some of those people. There are some people, there are things that like it's difficult to find online and we're able to corroborate, this person had a much stronger year than it looked like on paper. But we had to work down this list from 800 some to, again, 500. It was tricky. Then the assignments go out. People start writing them. A couple of our writers had to drop off. I had to take on some extra entries myself. We edit them. We gather photographs together. Our designers start working on laying the pages out. Then we've got to proofread those. We've got to finalize everything for print. So like beginning to end, I mean, in general, we have 5 or 6 weeks to put an issue together, but this one, we really did have to get a jump on it. So it was more like 6 or 7 weeks. But yeah, and then of course you have the things that you have to get ready for the launch. You have to get the website prepped. You have to get the social media stuff ready. We recorded a podcast that went up in the PWI YouTube channel yesterday that had a conversation with myself, Al Castle, and Jason McVeigh about the top 10. So that's there's a lot that goes into it. A lot of late nights, a lot of early mornings, a lot of more gray hairs in my head.
I get
No,
just
go
one
ahead,
other
Rick.
question. I just want to ask you. So WWID's they've been talking about a lot, right?
Yeah,
ID talent and stuff like that. I know criteria. You look at wins, losses, championships. Does them being talents being on WWID, did that hinder it at all?
That absolutely helped those wrestlers. There are a few of those wrestlers that never ranked before, but they got on WWE's radar, and argue some of them you could look and say they really should have been on before. Like if you look at them, but they maybe weren't like popping up on our radar for whatever reason, or they didn't have the buzz around them. You could argue that they were overlooked in previous years, a couple of them, but and then of course others you have that we did rank and ranked regularly with us. But those wrestlers we definitely took heavily into consideration because, well, yeah, they're borderline under WWE they are under a version of a WWE contract. Not all of them made it. We definitely looked at every single one of them and we considered every single one of them. But yeah, some of them didn't quite make the list, and maybe they will next year. We'll see. But it definitely changed things. Because again, it's just some wrestlers who were really not regularly making the list before, now they are, and so in some cases, some of them are newer wrestlers as well. So I think they'll be fixtures of the list, in years to come.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
Interesting. We're talking with PWI Editor-in-Chief Kevin McElvaney here on the Still Steps, discussing the 35th annual PWI 500, now available on pwi-online.com. Again, that's pwi-online.com. When we're talking about the discussion as far as like the evaluation period, I don't know if we asked this question before when we had you on, but where do you feel like is the easiest approach as far as developing this list? Is it more difficult to decipher what the top 10 is, or is it really putting together like the various talent to actually fulfill the entire list? Like where do you find the most easiest and the most difficult? I guess that's more so of a two-part question.
No, that's a really good question. I will say that number one spot, and then the number one is, I don't want to say it's the longest, because sometimes it's the top, rounding out the top 5, and then the top 10 can take a little bit longer. Like last year, getting Cody as number 1 wasn't that hard. It was more figuring out the rest of the top 5 and then the top 10 and then the top 20. And kind of, as you go through, it does get a little quicker because what happens is you have the high level wrestlers from these top promotions. Like, oh, okay, they're all kind of already on the list. And to me, that's where it starts to get fun, because it's like, oh, this is probably around where we start slotting in some of these independent wrestlers, or maybe like a Matt Tremont, like a deathmatch wrestler, obviously independent as well. But I think then what happens is you did all this research up front. You're looking at names as they're submitted, with the form we put up. You're looking into, sometimes you go down a rabbit hole. You're researching one wrestler. I'm like, we should look at this opponent, because like, I don't know if we looked at them closely enough last year, or they were on the cusp of something last year. So let's dig a little more into them. And we're just going through the wins and losses and how long did this person have a championship for, and, kind of what their buzz is, how they're doing in their matches. And it just becomes, there's way more than 500 wrestlers. There always used to be the thing like, are there 500 wrestlers in the world? Yes. There are way more than 500 wrestlers in the world who are doing really exciting things. In fact, part of why we have this tag team list is because, we sometimes we have like 2 members of a tag team on here. If we put them on a tag team list instead, that frees up some spots on the 500 for even more wrestlers to rank, So, and it recognizes a different art form in tag team wrestling too, which is pretty cool. But, and that's coming up in a couple of issues, but it's just, I don't know if that answered your question or not. I kind of went all over the place with that, but it gets really hard to whittle it down to where, like, there are some people I'm cutting. I'm like, oh, I know this person really wants to make the list this year, but can't justify it. They lost a lot of matches. They didn't really have any, they weren't as active. They didn't really have any championships, and it's some really tough cuts that you have to make. And it's not us mad with power just slashing names off, going, no, it's us being, oh, this sucks. Like, you want to be able to include everybody who's deserving. And sometimes it's easier where it's like, oh, this person like was out with injury for like 8 months and they didn't really wrestle. So like, okay, they're going to understand why they're not on. Yeah, that's fine.
Right. No, I got you. When I was reading the list, there were 2 names that did stood out in relation to like their stock rise and stock fall difference. First was Leon Slater, who in the previous year was ranked, I believe it was 180, and this year, has risen to number 53. So, I want to shout out the TNA X Division champ, because he's definitely been putting in work. But there is one individual I got to pinpoint out that did make a significant drop this year.
Wait, can you hang 1 second real quick? I don't know.
Yeah.
Is there a way to punch in on this?
I think so. Yeah, let me see.
Try to punch in on that left page if you can. I just want to point something out.
There we go.
Okay. I want to point out that number 38 up top, Yunsei Ito, who is he's the Triple Crown champion of All Japan. He's not Jelly Roll.
Oh gosh, yeah, I seen something about people saying
Jelly Roll did not
made the list.
Jelly Roll had
I saw that trending yesterday.
Yeah,
very realistic looking page, but like if you read it, the description, it's obviously like a goof. So I just wanted to show people that it's in fact the top All Japan wrestler in that slot, and not Jelly Roll. Okay,
I saw that yesterday. It looked very believable. It really did.
Right. No,
he did a really good job on it.
Yeah, I seen it. I was like, wait, Jelly Roll made the list. Look, I was about to hit you up personally, like, bro, what's going on, man? what is going on? But I actually Drew McIntyre, who last year was at number 13, now falling to number 46.
Yep.
Now, while I understand, the list criteria and how Drew was impacted, but I feel like, and this is just me personally, I feel like that drop for him was on the hands of WWE, and before his championship match with Cody at WrestlePalooza, like the company pivoted and taking him out of like a lot of the title run. So my question to you is, would you agree if he'd been a champion during the evaluation period, he would have been considered for top 10?
Hawk, I love that you asked this. I don't know. Top 10's tough because like that, even there's debate whether the top 10 was even like, there's a couple guys on the cusp of it that should have been in. But he would have been a lot higher if he had a championship. And I think that's one very important thing to point out here, is that this list so heavily focuses on how people are booked and presented. So if someone has a year where they're taking a lot of losses, which Drew definitely was, he was taking a lot of losses this year. With live events on TV and, in big programs he was working, he was not, and it was part of his story, right? He's in this situation where he's getting frustrated and then he's going to have to figure out how to pivot or else he's going to stagnate. So he's at number 46. Had he won a championship again? Yeah, that's a very different story. If you look like the top 10 to top 20, most of those wrestlers in there held a world championship during the evaluation period. So
hashtag justice for McIntyre.
Right. It's also like if he had been
right. Oops, sorry.
We're not saying he's not a good wrestler. We're saying this was his year versus other wrestlers' year.
Right. No, I got you. My apology. I took you off screen for a second. I meant to hit the other button.
I get it. I get the impulse to want to get my face off of here.
Oh, stop it. Get out of here.
Joey just deleted himself.
Hey, like, I'm out.
What happened?
Crazy. Wait, did he really just delete himself out? He did.
He was fiddling with the screen, and then he was gone.
He's done with his questions out there.
The volume went. My volume on my phone just went completely off. Like I lost it. Couldn't hear anyone.
Crazy.
So what I was gonna ask is, because Hawk was kind of getting the specifics of people, you had someone in the top 10 who is very, very polarizing amongst the internet wrestling community.
I think I know who you're going to say.
And that's none other than the Yeet Man himself, main event Jey Uso.
Right.
So I would love to kind of, hear the little maybe backstories about that debate of having Jey Uso in top 10, because he had a very successful year, won multiple titles.
Yeah.
But in terms of maybe technical abilities and stuff like that, he might not be on par with a Seth Rollins or someone like that. So how did that kind of transpire? And was there any pushback to maybe not have him in the top 10?
I think that's actually what landed him on the side of the top 10 that he is, why he's not top 5. Because we were looking, he was in the conversation for that. And
really?
And when we looked at him versus a Hangman Page or a Hiroki Goto, he just did not have the in-ring year that those guys had. Like it wasn't close. He had that strong push. He had the Intercontinental title. He had the fairly short World Heavyweight title reign. Tapped Gunther out at WrestleMania, so that's a big thing. If you're going just in terms of influence, yeah, he's like the most popular wrestler in the industry for, again, polarizing on certain sides of social media, but in the arenas, oh my God.
Yeah.
So which is, that's what matters. Like that really, like if he's packing the venues out, that's that. But ultimately we looked at him as holding the championship for shorter than Gunther did. We looked at him, not having quite the level of matches that Gunther had, but also the other thing is when you're considering that title, like nobody's going to say that that's the top championship in WWE, or even that it's tied for top. It's really not. It's a world title, yes, sure. It's the world title for its brand. Nobody believes that championship with its short lineage is on the same level as the WWE Undisputed title. Nobody. So,
was that who you were thinking I was talking about before I said his name?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's amazing. So, I mean, even within the PWI, like there are some on staff who are really big fans of him and really like what he's doing, and some people are like, a little corny or whatever, but like it's working, whether you think it's corny or not. So it's like you have to consider that. I'll say it, another guy that's sort of divisive online but undeniably popular, Joe Hendry. And you either love Joe Hendry or you're like, what does this guy do? Right? And I should say, like, both I think both Jay and Joe are extremely talented. I've not interacted much with Jay. I don't think I've ever interacted with Jay personally, but like Joe has been a really nice guy in my interactions with him. Like, so pulling for both of these guys, but I can get where for some people, like some hardcore fans, they would be a little bit of a silly or corny presentation. But you look at Joe Hendry, he was the TNA world champion for a good run. He was the most popular guy in that company for a period of time. He was up there with Jey Uso for most popular wrestler. I mean, he was getting tens of millions of views on his social media clips. People, like, he really kind of helped. I mean, I think if you didn't have him making those goofy cameos in the early, Jordan Grace is a big part of it as well. But if you didn't have him making those goofy cameos in the early part of the NXT TNA relationship, I think it doesn't land quite as hard because you have this high level popular wrestler. But some people are pissed off because he's ahead of Zack Sabre Jr. And I honestly kind of get it.
I'm that guy.
So Hawk, I actually came into the meeting.
That's my guy.
So I said I didn't have a number one, but I had a rough idea of my top five in some order.
Okay.
I actually had Zach at probably number five. So I had him ahead of Goto. But what we came to as like a consensus, because this is a group doing it, and like, yeah, okay, I can put my editor thumb down and say, no, we're not, we're not doing this. But generally, I want the group to feel good about the top 10, right? So Zach, we looked at him versus Goto, and Goto's year. Goto had he beat Zach for the championship. Obviously, lost it back to him later in the period, but he set the record for most defenses of the IWGP World Heavyweight title.
Yeah,
since it was rechristened as that. He had greater attendance. He was basically like really drawing in big crowds. He had this kind of inspirational side of it. Just generally was considered. Generally, by people who like really watch it, and look, even Zack Sabre Jr. fans are going to come from me. Like, look at the people who are really in the weeds watching New Japan. They are not saying that Zack Sabre Jr. had a good, at least his first reign was better than Goto's. Nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying that. Now, Zack Sabre Jr. is freaking awesome. He won the G1. He main evented Tokyo Dome 2 nights in a row. I think there's easily a case for him in the top 10. There's one specific wrestler, and I will not name the name on this one, that I think could be swapped out of the top 10 entirely and put Zach in his place. But
where did Zach end up?
Zach ended up at 13, I believe.
Yeah, it was.
But again, that's this guy's opinion. Like we're a committee of 7 or 8 of us, and as a group, that's what we came to. We're like, okay, he's the number 2 New Japan guy, and in between the number 1 New Japan guy and the number 2 New Japan guy, you kind of have to slot in all these other guys because it really meant more to be the number one TNA guy, or it meant more to be the number 3 WWE guy than it meant to be the number 2 New Japan guy. That was the logic. Whether it's correct, you can debate that all day. But
so if I'm understanding this based on your response, this was probably one of the most controversial parts of the evaluation, where you're probably like, wait, what? Like, are you kidding me? Until somebody ran the numbers, which I totally agree and understand, because Zach was the perfect dance partner for Goto. going into, you know what I mean, into 2025. Like, if
Yeah.
anything, like the two may carry like the work over in New Japan. So
and like, let me also say, like, I'm saying like these like quote unquote negative things about him only to explain why he's lower than other guys. Like, I could focus all day on like the quality of the matches that he had, that he won the G1, that he won the IWGP World Heavyweight title twice, that he had, you know, that he was main eventing the Tokyo Dome 2 nights in a row as a foreign talent, that he was wrestling in all these other promotions on the independents and GCW. I don't think he lost a match. He wrestled for, you know, interpromotional stuff with AEW. So, I mean, like, you don't have to, you're not going to catch me like slacking Zack Sabre Jr. It's just not like a thing I'm going to do. But
yeah, that GCW one with him and Mance was one of the better matches I've seen all year outside of a major promotion.
It's like interesting the chemistry two people can have who have really different styles in the ring, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so let me ask your personal opinion before I bring it over to Rich for his next question. And I don't know if you have it off the top of your head, and if you don't, you can just think of someone that you may want to highlight. But the highest, if you don't know off the top of your head, the highest riser from last year to this year, if you want to just shout out somebody that rose pretty high this year compared to last year.
I wish I knew these things off the top of my head. I know Marcus Mathers had a really big jump.
Yeah.
And that was large. So he's a WWE ID guy. That's definitely part of it. But it's also that he won last New Year's Eve. He won the IWTV World Independent Championship. And then he beat Cruel for that, which was like nobody was beating Cruel at that point. And then he's having all these great matches. He's wrestling again for GCW. He's wrestling Reality of Wrestling. He's wrestling all these places. And then like, again, now on WWE Evolve and contention for the WWE ID title and all this stuff. So he was he's a Philly guy, so got to give him a shout out. Just a really, and I'll say this because he's a young guy, and I turned 41 this year, but Mark is a good kid. He's a good kid. He's like he's doing really good work, and I say that like I say that with the idea that like he's just going to continue to get better over the years. So
yeah, I think
the fact that he's already this good, like where's he going to be in 5-10 years? You know?
Oh,
he was 40 this year, right?
40. Yep.
Yeah, 40.
And I forget what he was last year, but I think he jumped something like 200 or at least 100 places.
Yeah, he did. He was last year. He was at 140, and he jumped to 40. Here's one that actually stood out. Actually, I just had it up, and I started flipping the pages. Are
you going lower down the list, or you higher still on the list?
I'm actually I'm in the 100s area, and I must say I got to commend this person because the way he got his launch and where he's at now, like I totally respect it. Who?
I don't know. Just go. I'll tell you what I was thinking.
You probably ain't thinking who I'm thinking. Jasper Troy coming in at 141 for the first time. Like I must say I respect it due to the fact from where he came from. Coming up through the LFG series and coming in on the NXT brand, being like a workhorse right out the gate. being able to get a plate. I think we had 2 plates with Obafemi. So and
obviously he didn't end up winning the title, but I remember Harry Burkett wrote something to the effect when he was covering like Jasper Troy's rise, like that he was essentially the most credible challenger to Obafemi at that point. Like this looks like somebody who can actually beat Obafemi, that's not an easy thing to put forward,
Right. Like I'm shocked. I will say I did hear one person, cool, what a cool guy. I like him a lot. He seemed a little frustrated with his position this year. But I'm talking about AJ Francis in regards to his position.
AJ Francis, I feel like he would. I have a strong feeling that if he were number 2, he would still be frustrated with his position. I think he's got the chip on his shoulder. Honestly, though, I think that's part of what makes him as good as he is. And he's a guy who gets. Can I throw a little cuss word in here?
Yeah.
He's a guy who gets way too much shit. Way too much shit. That man works hard, and like especially like just the work he did on himself as he left WWE the second time and went to TNA and did all the stuff in the independents. He looks great. He's moving around great. He's living his best life. He's got all these celebrity friends. So I know it's fun to hate on AJ because he sometimes he brings it on himself. He comes out there and he does the obnoxious crap on TV and on Twitter and all this stuff. But like that guy's really good.
I gotta give him credit. Somehow, some way, he somehow manages to get in the main event status.
Yes, he worms his way in there, doesn't he?
Like, he does it. Like I don't know how he do it, but he does it.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
shout out to AJ Francis, first class. Yeah,
so
man.
I got to ask a question.
Yeah.
Obviously, being a New Yorker, everybody, I know I'm against everybody here, but create.
Right?
I don't know. And even if I didn't say it just from the way I speak, but
What do you mean?
Bear Bronson, Creative Pro, he's in Wrestling Open quite a bit. So last year, I know he was in a tag team with AEW, he got let go, whatever the case is. It seems like he's having like a crazy, or he had a much better year. But when I looked at the list last year to this year, he didn't really rise all that much. Now it could be wins, losses, and things like that, as you mentioned.
Yeah, so honestly, it's because Bear's awesome. The work that he's been doing has been so recent. And I think that's part of why it feels like, because he's this really hot act on the independents right now, especially like doing the deathmatch stuff, but not just deathmatch. And he and Gabby Forza have the great tag team at the Savage Nomies. But just like, but he just does he just put on, I'd say a hell of a match, but a hell of a couple of matches in GCW. But just some just wild death match. Oh, looks like we lost two guys this time.
Well, I don't know what happened to Joey, but I knew Rich, his battery was dying. So
okay, all right. Well, Rich,
he'll be back
see us later.
Yeah.
Basically, Bear is. I think he's going to be much higher next year because he started this he wasn't really doing anything in AEW.
Yeah, his start was that Slade match, right?
Yeah.
That Slade match in GCW, what was that? That was like June, I think, right? Like that was
and there's one with that was within the period, but I think he had a match with Tremont that was after.
Yeah, but what I'm saying about the Slade matches, right? That was kind of like Homecoming was Tremont, but I feel like that Slade match is kind of what
the turning point,
exploded him into the. Yes. But that was very, like you said, very very late in the marking period to where it was like. Yeah. Next year will be his year, and it'll be interesting to see.
I really think so. He's doing a lot of great work and has a great attitude and is really also he's still, again on the lower side of the list. He didn't seem too bothered by it. I think he understands that it's like a work in progress, and he's just getting a chance to show what he can do on his own.
Yeah.
Well,
so
go ahead.
I just want to ask you on a personal level.
Yeah.
Right. The list, the list came out yesterday.
Yeah.
So. Yesterday was Tuesday, right? So Sunday, Monday, right? How much are you staying away from social media, staying away from all of your acts and stuff like that? Like how much stress and pressure does this list put on you personally the week leading up to it and the days after?
Well, I'm going to answer your question, Joe, but welcome back, Rich. I did answer your question, so if you go back and watch, I addressed it, but there's also
I appreciate it.
I look for good things from him in the year ahead. Okay, so Joe, you were asking about social media and the balance. Yeah, it's tough. I actually asked a couple of the writers to sort of help me out with going through and doing some of the retweets and the quote tweets and stuff, because it just gets, most, believe it or not, I know there's a lot of angry stuff, but most of the feedback is either, if not positive or just shouting out certain wrestlers, it's constructive. It's I don't know about so-and-so at number 5, but glad to see Hangman at number 4, just what, that stuff. That's great. But then you have other people. This is trash. This magazine's been trash since 2005. And I haven't read it since then. Okay. Well, if you haven't read it, maybe you don't actually know that the magazine's trash. So
yeah, exactly.
But have you read anything since 2005? I don't know. I can't say. Just
I feel like that's an indirect shot at someone who was personally in your DMs recently.
There was a very specific comment I'm thinking of, so they may very well see it. But
you know what? We made this an annual thing, But beforehand, we gonna just like clip out like some of like the tweets, just
The wildest comments.
so we can just laugh.
God. Yeah, well, if it's that one, don't show the name. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll blur out the name.
We'll keep it just a comment, like
There's
just
a lot going
to
on, but,
make laugh out of it.
Yeah, how many of those comments can you read? So you have to peel yourself away. So I tweeted that I was going. Like I said, okay, I'm going to the movies now, just so no one thought that I like just dipped out and wasn't like, did he like finally lose it? We need a wellness check over there.
Wellness check.
People worry about me this time of year, and I get why. But I ended up, going to like grab dinner with a friend and see a movie, and I was like, oh, okay. I came back and I felt a lot better after that, and I got a good night's sleep. All right.
Tell us what movie you saw. What movie did you say?
Very uncool answer. I saw The Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey with Colin Farrell and Margot Robbie. I'm a sucker for a rom-com and magical realism, so I love that. I love that movie.
Shout out to that movie. But before I swing it back over to Hawk here, 35 years, right? Like you guys made it through a pandemic when wrestling for a little bit kind of was at a standstill. WWE and AEW were really the only game in business at that point in time, and slowly but surely it came back.
GCW never stopped.
Yes, GCW also, they had their social distancing shows and stuff like that. You want to talk about what that means to make it to this point, 35 years, when a lot of physical media kind of fallen by the wayside and you guys were able to pivot and keep it going strong?
I do not take that lightly at all. In fact, when I started with PWI, we had a few magazines that we were still producing at that point. We had The Wrestler and Inside Wrestling, and then they became a combined thing. And we'd still do like pretty regular newsstand specials back then. It got scaled down to 6 magazines a year that we were putting out for PWI. Now it's 9, so it actually went back up. That's again rare. But I think some people really still do appreciate physical media. They have this connection to PWI from when they were, growing up, or any number of reasons that they feel that connection. And like, I grew up reading the magazine, so it's an honor. But so many other magazines are not around anymore, and really we're the only print magazine based in the U.S. There's some, if you go to Barnes and Noble, you'll see a couple other titles. They're all imports from the UK. Weekly Pro Wrestling is still very much a thing in Japan, and Power Wrestling in Germany. So like it's not to sell any of these other titles short. It's like they're out there fighting the good fight too. But as far as like American based pro wrestling magazines, we're at this point. So we're just trying to keep it going and keep people interested. And when I grew up reading wrestling magazines, I didn't like, other than you'd be able to like buy compilation tapes, like cheap compilation tapes at like Kmart or something, but otherwise there weren't a lot of other ways to see wrestling like that wasn't on WWF or WCW when I was a kid. So how I found out about the wrestling from a few years prior and even before that, or even like the remaining parts of the territories that were still around at that point, it was by reading PWI and The Wrestler and Inside Wrestling and Sports Review Wrestling. And it was going through those magazines and learning about new wrestlers. And then like when they would show up in the WWF or on WCW, like, oh, I know this guy. I read about him in PWI, and that's a really cool thing. And I don't, obviously we have the internet now, and there's more to watch than ever. So kind of what I view our responsibility as is, and the 500 is part of this, kind of like cutting through the noise and then giving people like, this is the stuff you should be checking out. This is the really significant stuff that it's happening right now. And then the cool thing is you have like especially if you have a physical copy of this magazine, you can go back in a year or 2 years and you can see what wrestling was looking like at that point. It's kind of like this snapshot of the industry. It's a nice little keepsake.
You know what?
Sales pitch.
You facts.
Still got a bunch of PWI magazines.
Yeah, same. I it's like and I grabbed some extras from that were like when I went to the office, like, oh, nobody's taking these? Okay, sure, yeah. Like I'm taking them.
I'll take them.
Yeah.
You know what? While I have you here, it's not actually necessarily related to the 500 list, but more so just like as far as like the business today, because a hot topic over the last couple of weeks has been the nature of the TKO business, and with everything that's going on, Mania, in 2 years will be overseas, but just overall, like from you, and from the fans' sake, like what like where does your vibe stand with like what's going on as far as like the business that's being done like through the under the TKO umbrella? Like do you agree with like most of like the stance as far as like with the inflation with the tickets?
Oh,
and
you're
like
really trying to get me in
going
trouble,
on?
aren't you?
Not necessarily, but
Ticket prices going up like that is only good for the stockholders and the executives of that company. It's really not. It's not friendly to people who want to take their kids to see a match. It's not friendly to like groups of friends who are young and working who want to go out to a show. It's not. It's very elitist. I do not like it. I am not a fan of it. They're doing other things that I think are positive. I think like some people roll their eyes at some of the brand sponsorships, and I think not all of them are hits, but it's a good idea to have Slim Jim on a table. Like why not? Like why not make money off of that? Why not have like logos all over the ring apron? Like Mexico and Japan have been doing that for years. Like why not? So I think some of this stuff makes sense, and some of the stuff is they're just trying to squeeze as much money out of the industry as they can. And I think some of it could backfire years down the line, especially some of the more like kind of anti-competitive stuff. If we're talking about this counter program and stuff, I don't like it. I think it's I get why they do it. I don't think it's good for the industry, because eventually, like if you're trying to run your competitors out of business, you are going to have this just really depleted industry with one big company, and that's not good for workers. That's not good for fans. And I think it's the reality is the WWE product the last few years has been way better than it was prior to that. So I think people are a little less inclined to worry about that. Like, oh, it's fine. WWE can take everything over. Look, like it's so much better now. And like, yeah, it is a little better, and it's a good deal better in some ways. But then in other ways, it's like, it's still a problem if the wrestlers are like potentially don't have enough places to work, if they don't have any leverage in their contracts to make more money. Like,
right.
You look at WWE and AEW, as much as they pay their wrestlers in some cases, if you compare it to what wrestlers make in other sports, like it's not even close to the percentage of the profits that are made by these companies. So it's just, this is all I could go on all day about that, but I have very mixed feelings. I think some things that TKO is doing makes perfect business sense. I think like inarguably they've done a really good job diversifying like the TV portfolio for WWE with this stuff with ESPN, with Netflix, with the CW for NXT. Just
Do you like that there are multiple locations?
So it's frustrating as a consumer sometimes, right? But it's smart for them in that, okay, like there are rumors right now of WBD being sold, right? So if WBD is sold to another company who just unilaterally decides, oh, we don't want pro wrestling on our service, then well, that's a problem for AEW. Whereas if WWE, like, let's say the CW goes under, well, hey, Netflix, you interested in another show? Like they have other partners right now. So it is a good idea. And AEW was, supposedly in talks with other, like there was talk of AEW doing something with Fox at one point. And I think that's wise. Like it's good to be, have strong relationships and loyalty, but it makes sense from a business standpoint. And again, I say from a business standpoint, it's a pain in the ass as a customer.
Because like you mentioned the sponsorships, right?
Yes.
And like Slim Jim on the table and Prime in the ring and stuff like that.
It's hokey. Don't get me wrong, but I just think it's
but I get what you're saying. Like from a business standpoint, it makes sense. But the hope is, from a fan standpoint, is that having this extra revenue would then offset the price of tickets for the fans. And it's not doing that. It's in fact the tickets are even going up. For example, I jumped in the pre-sale yesterday for WrestleMania, and 2 tickets for the worst seats in WrestleMania came out to be $1,700 for 2 tickets.
That's nuts. That's nuts.
To put it in perspective, I got group rates for WrestleMania 40 in Philly. Got 10 tickets for $1,100 total.
And the tickets were even then a little bit more expensive than they'd been a few years prior to that.
Yeah.
So like
it's just mind blowing. I don't know when it's going to stop. Like you said, it probably won't stop until it backfires and fans
The bubble
start
bursts
turning
or something.
away.
Yeah.
But who knows if that's ever going to happen because fans are so loyal to this business.
And you look at UFC. UFC is still doing really well. So it's just if UFC can pull it off, what it will do though is it'll hurt the ability to market to families, which has been so important to WWE's business model, not just for having the larger audience and the president, but for having people. A lot of us grew up as wrestling fans as kids, and then we stick with it, right? So if you're shutting those people out, you're shutting out potential lifelong fans. That's not a good idea.
Yeah. I feel like over the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of like the buzz is beginning to buzz even more than it has before. And I think the straw that broke the camel's back might have been the recent Mania announcement. Now it's like there's been a side eye as far as like on the company. I'll be honest, like with all due respect, it might have kept Twitter pretty clean over the last week or so. Like, wasn't a lot of like back and forth for the stands. You know what I mean? Like the pro WWE fans. Like, it was almost like they were kind of like sad. Like, damn, y'all really doing this?
There are. I have a lot of criticisms of the relationship between WWE and the government of Saudi Arabia. It's the sport washing is a very valid concern. There are real human rights issues in that country. People have pointed out, how do you do a collective? How do you have an Effie's Big Gay Brunch in Saudi Arabia where it's illegal to be gay? Like you can't. So it's just there's a lot of problems. There is a genuine fan base of WWE in Saudi Arabia now, which there was not when that relationship was established. Right. So it's good for those fans, but it's going to be a lot harder for, never mind some people, they're not going to feel like, I don't know how I feel about traveling to this country for various reasons. I don't know if I feel safe, but then you also have like just the logistics. Like you have to take a long flight to get there, and maybe you would have a certain amount of that if it was in London or something too, but just, it's going to be even further away. It's going to be, it's going to shut out a lot of people who normally go and support WrestleMania and attend and buy these tickets and buy these VIP things. And some people will still go. But I suspect it's going to be a lot harder I don't think we're going to hear about record attendance. Like it's not, you're not, how? Okay, maybe for that specific venue, but you can't, this is the best attended wrestling. No, it's not. Oh, no, it's not.
You're like, you're a liar.
Yeah.
Like, you brought up London, which is a good point, because, not just us fans, US fans, but there's other countries that are pissed too. Look at London. If there was some place to have a WrestleMania, I would think it would be there. It should be there, right? Just how loyal they've been and stuff like that. Yeah. So not just us US fans, but a lot of fans in other countries feel very jaded by the decision.
Yeah, and especially they've been doing all this stuff in Europe, so like it's kind of like they're really courting and doing the big events there and the TV there. They're really courting that fan base, and not just people who live in England, but people who live in France and Germany and Italy and Spain, wherever. Like it's feasible for them to go to a London WrestleMania. It's a little harder for them to go to WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia.
Right.
So I could see where they're disappointed as well.
Yeah. Well, Kev, we greatly appreciate you joining us here on the Still Steps on a special edition of the Still Steps PWI 500. So looking forward to next year. We'll circle it back, or actually even before then, the PWI the women's 250 when that releases.
Yeah, November 11th for the digital edition. And if you're a newsstand person, the 500 comes out October 14th. The issue with Willow on the cover is still on newsstands right now.
Nice. Shout out to Willow. Love her. Waiting for her to get the strap, the title.
I think it's a matter of time, man.
Yeah, it's definitely there, and I think they got something to cook with Statlander now being a champ, and potentially going over to the Death Riders. Spoiler alert. Mm-hmm. But we'll see that coming up soon. So
yeah.
But yeah. All right, gentlemen, let's we're gonna pause right there because we still got more turnbuckle talk that we're gonna discuss on Friday coming up in regards to the week's events that we've had last weekend, as well as AEW is currently in progress. So non-spoiler alert, tag team championship matches in progress. So first match of the night. So we'll dive into that, as well as any other additional turnbuckle talk that we find out by the time we get to Friday. So, but
Thank you, Kev.
yeah, greatly appreciated it as
Yeah,
always. So if there's anything else you want to plug, where people can find you, and if anyone again wants to purchase the PWI, which we said it before, pwi-online.com, but where can people find you if they want to communicate or just follow you as far as wrestling?
Yeah, I am at politicking_Hawk. Send all complaints. No.
I got you. I got a background in responding to complaints like that.
Oh, well, there you go.
We understand your comments.
It's been a few years, but officially anyway. But no, at McElvaney, WACKELVANEY, on Instagram and Twitter. Twitter and Instagram also official PWI for PWI's official account. Then we got PWI-online.com. That's, you can subscribe there. If you subscribe like today or tomorrow, it should be still soon enough where you get a copy of the 500 issue to begin. That's it for the print edition. If you subscribe to the digital edition at any time, it starts with the most recent issue. You get it right away. So you can sign up for the combo for the two, and it's actually pretty great because you would get the 500 digital edition right away. You get the print edition in the mail, and then you'll start getting. We got the women's issue coming up. We've got the tag team issue. We got the awards at the end of the year. So it's an exciting, busy time of year for me. And I will, I don't know, I'll sleep in February or something.
Well, after the Super Bowl, go Birds.
Yeah, go Birds.
Exactly.
Sorry, Rich. Rich, I should add. PWI was born in New York, so it's like a great history there. So we can't slander you too much.
Thanks for the love. You're the only one on this podcast that ever gives love, so I appreciate it.
Mets and the Giants.
Yeah.
Listen,
look, at least it's not the Cowboys, right? We can all agree.
That's a fact.
That's true.
We
toast Dallas people at me on Twitter now.
Yeah, right. Why you had to say that, Kev? The show was going to end. You didn't have to say that. You waited a minute and 2 seconds to get that in, huh? An hour and 2 minutes. Sorry. But you had to get that in.
I had to get it in.
Fuck the Cowboys. But anyway. So, all right, gentlemen. This was Still Steps, powered by All Authentic Talk Sports Network. Mr. Joey Woods, Mr. Rich Michaels, our guest, actually family of the show, Mr. Kevin McElvaney. I am Politica Hot, and we'll holler at y'all Friday. Stay tuned. Till then,